Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, so today, July 8th, 2025, there's been a noticeable dip in the global crypto market. Bitcoin, too.
Yeah, pretty significant headlines this morning.
Exactly. But we're going to go, way beyond just that headline figure.
Right.
Our mission here, really, is to pull out the key insights, maybe some surprising facts from all the source material we've gathered.
Kind of cut through the noise.
Yeah, give you a concise but thorough understanding of what's really driving things. Think of it as your shortcut to being properly informed.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to look at how presidential policies are affecting digital markets. A big win for online privacy, though it's got some tricky legal bits.
Oh, yeah, the Tornado Cash story.
That's the one. And then some interesting new tech from a familiar face in the industry. And also the speed of AI and smart city stuff happening in the Middle East.
Quite a range today.
It really is. Okay, let's unpack this. It really shows how, global politics, tech, digital finance, it's all connected.
Absolutely. Where do we start? The market dip.
Let's jump right in there. The immediate impact. So July 8th, today, a clear drop. Bitcoin, the wider crypto market.
And the sources are pointing towards President Trump's tariff stance.
Pretty much, yeah. His aggressive position on tariffs seems to be the main catalyst. He's calling them a negotiation tool.
Aimed at the BRICS nations, specifically, to bolster the dollar.
That's the framing, yeah. Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. It's about preserving the U.S. dollar's position.
And he actually did something concrete recently.
He did. Signed an executive order. It extends certain tariff rates that were actually due to expire tomorrow, July 9th. Pushed them out to August 1st. And this announcement, well, our sources say it caused panic in mainstream media.
And that sentiment spilled over into crypto.
Seems like it. An indirect but clear ripple effect on prices.
Interesting. So it wasn't a direct crypto regulation, but a broader economic move causing jitters.
Exactly. And the market data really shows that reaction. We saw, get this, a 90% drop in EPF inflows just in the last 24 hours.
Wow, 90%.
Yeah, down to just $60.8 million total.
Right.
That suggests the big institutional players.
Yeah.
BlackRock, Vanguard, Fidelity, they pulled back significantly.
Okay, that's a major signal from institutional money.
For sure. And the overall global crypto market cap, now sitting at $3.4 trillion. That's down 4.7%, and sources link it directly to this tariff news.
But volumes were up, you said?
Interestingly, yes. Total market volume actually jumped to $89.1 billion. So lots of trading happening, even as prices fell.
That's fascinating. It suggests people weren't just holding steady, they were actively moving assets. What were they doing? Selling Bitcoin.
It looks like it. Many seem to be selling Bitcoin, but maybe not rushing into stable assets with huge confidence.
Right, so conversions to stablecoins like Tether, USDC, FD, they happened, but the volumes weren't enormous.
Exactly. Tether USD volume was $62.66 billion, Circle USDC $8.77 billion, FD $6.23 billion. Significant, but maybe not high enough to show like a mass flight to safety.
More like uncertainty,
Right.
a wait-and-see kind of move.
That's what it looks like. Yeah, points more towards uncertainty.
Okay. What about decentralized exchanges? DXs.
Saw a small uptick. DXX 24-hour volume hit $13.96 billion.
And the appeal there is lower fees, right?
Generally, yes. Platforms like PancakeSwap, Uniswap, Radium often have fees under 1%, much lower than many centralized exchanges. So maybe some traders shifting there.
And dominance. Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Both dipped slightly. Bitcoin dominance down to 63.02%, Ethereum to 8.98%.
Which might mean altcoins got hit even harder in this downturn.
Could be, yeah.
Yeah.
It suggests other coins felt more impact. And just looking at the specific prices real quick, Bitcoin around $10,715. That's down about 1.6% in 24 hours.
It's still slightly up over the week.
Just barely, up 0.54% over 7 days. Ethereum's at $2,529, down almost 1.9% today, but up 1.77% over the week.
And Ripple, XRP.
XRP at $2.15. Down a little over 1% today, but also slightly up 1.06% for the week.
So zooming out, it really highlights how media interpretation of policy can drive volatility, maybe even more than the policy details themselves initially.
That's a really key point. Understanding the actual economic impact means looking past those first, maybe panic headlines.
Right, because mainstream media often paints one picture of Trump's big, beautiful bill on tariffs.
Yeah, but the sources we looked at recall his first term differently. They suggest tariffs actually led to lower prices, less inflation, and boosted U.S. investment and jobs back then.
It's a contested point, certainly, and his recent social media statement was pretty blunt.
Extremely. Any country aligning themselves with the anti-American policies of BRICS will be charged an additional 10% tariffs. And he added, no exceptions.
Wow, and that came right as BRICS leaders were meeting in Brazil.
Perfect timing, or maybe calculated timing. They were apparently discussing support for Iran, maybe moving away from the US dollar, or even their own digital currencies.
Which haven't actually launched yet, right?
Not in any significant way, no. So it's a strong message.
And economically, the sources claim the U.S. is doing well despite these trade tensions.
They do. They point to about $11 trillion secured from tariffs, and the U.S. job market being the strongest it's been in 4 years. Suggests a robust U.S. economy, sort of contradicting the panic narrative.
It really makes you wonder, how do we cut through that noise to see the real economic picture?
It's tough. You have policy, media spin, market reaction, all tangled up.
So what's the immediate takeaway here? Interesting times ahead, certainly with the BRICS summit ongoing and crypto legislation potentially coming up too.
Definitely. Keep an eye on the actual policy details and the longer-term data, not just the day-to-day media churn.
Sound advice.
Okay, let's shift gears. A really important story for digital privacy. Tornado Cash.
Ah, yes, the protocol that got sanctioned.
Exactly. Back in 2022, the Biden administration sanctioned it, which was a huge deal, possibly the first time a protocol, just the code itself, was targeted.
The analogy used was like banning cars because one was used in a robbery.
Right. That was the source's analogy. Pretty illustrative. Well, now for the big news.
The sanctions are lifted.
Completely. The Trump administration has lifted all sanctions against Tornado Cash.
Wow, okay. That's significant.
It's huge. A major victory for open source code, for privacy advocates in the crypto space. The Treasury Department dropped its sanctions and its legal appeal against the smart contracts.
So the code itself is no longer considered illegal, essentially.
That seems to be the implication. Coin Center's executive director called it the official end to the code battle over statutory authority behind Tornado Cash sanctions.
And the reasoning from the current administration?
Our sources say the Trump administration is not interested in moving forward in defending the dangerously overboard interpretation of sanction laws from the previous administration. It's a clear shift.
Okay, so the technology, the protocol is cleared, but what about the people involved?
Ah, yes. That's the crucial nuance, the tricky part. While the protocol is free, the individuals connected to it are still in serious legal trouble.
Like Roman Storm.
Roman Storm, yeah. One of the co-founders. Sources describe him as a proud U.S. citizen targeted by Biden's administration. He still faces a criminal trial.
When is that?
Scheduled for July 14th, so very soon. In New York, charges are of money laundering, sanctions evasion, potential sentence up to 45 years.
45 years? Wow. And weren't there others?
Yes. Roman Semenov, another co-founder, charged back in August 2023, similar charges, plus operating an unlicensed money transmitting business. He was arrested, but is apparently now a fugitive.
Where is he thought to be?
Speculation is maybe Dubai. And then there was Alexei Pertsev, another developer who faced legal action in the Netherlands.
So the code is okay, but the creators are still facing the music. Is there any hope for them? Like a pardon?
The industry is certainly hoping for one, particularly for Roman Storm, especially given this administration's reversal on the protocol itself. But that's just hope right now.
It's a fascinating situation, making a clear line between the tool and the user, or in this case, the alleged actions of the developers.
Exactly. How do you balance innovation, especially open source tech, with regulation, without killing the tech or unfairly targeting the creators?
It raises that fundamental question, doesn't it? How do regulators handle decentralized tech? This seems to suggest targeting bad actors, not the underlying code itself.
Which could be a really important precedent for the future of software development and privacy tools.
Definitely. A win for the tech, but yeah, still some very human stories playing out with serious consequences.
Very true. Okay, now for something a bit different. Innovation and controversy, two contrasting stories. First, the Toncoin drama.
Ah, the Golden Visa thing.
That's the one. They made a big splash claiming they had this UAE Golden Visa initiative if you staked $100,000 worth of Toncoin.
Sounded almost too good to be true.
And it seems it was. UAE authorities came out very quickly, publicly dismissed it, basically questioned if it was even legitimate.
Swift debunking.
Very swift. Then Toncoin put out a clarification on their website. It said visa issuance is, quote, solely at the discretion of the UAE authorities.
Backtracking a bit.
Yeah, calling their thing an independent initiative, explicitly not an official government partnership.
Okay, trying to manage the fallout, but wasn't there something more direct from their team?
This is the crazy part, yeah. The CFO of the Ton Foundation, Max Crown, he tweeted on July 6th, explicitly saying Toncoin launched a groundbreaking initiative offering the exclusive chance to secure 10-year golden visa.
He actually tweeted that, outlining steps and fees.
Yep. Stake a $100 K for 3 years, pay a $35K fee. All laid out.
Oh boy.
And the market reaction. Predictable. Toncoin's price pump, over 10% on that initial news.
And then?
Then it dropped over 6% when the lack of official backing became clear.
Ouch. So what are the potential consequences here?
Well, the sources suggest it clearly looks like they were trying to pump the coin.
Yeah.
Which could lead to trouble with UAE authorities, maybe even the US SEC.
Definitely highlights the need for due diligence in crypto. Check the source, check the official channels.
Absolutely. If it sounds too good to be true, now contrast that with this. Jack Dorsey's new project, BitChat.
The Twitter founder, now big Bitcoin guy. What's BitChat?
Get this. It's a decentralized messaging app that works purely on Bluetooth.
No internet connection required.
None. Zero internet needed. It functions as a mesh network.
So phones talk directly to other nearby phones?
Exactly. Your phone connects to devices near it. They pass the message along to others, hopping from phone to phone until it reaches the recipient, even over potentially long distances.
And it's private, encrypted.
Supposedly, yes, messages are encrypted. Key features are pretty compelling. No internet, no servers, private encrypted messages. It even works when phones or offline messages get saved and delivered later.
Wow. And no user accounts or phone numbers?
Nope. User identity stays private. It also supports group chats. You can add passwords to those too.
That's potentially revolutionary for communication. Are there plans to add other connection methods?
Yeah, they mentioned future plans to incorporate Wi-Fi, other methods for potentially faster or longer range messaging.
The use cases here seem huge.
Definitely. Think about places with no reliable internet, remote areas, disaster zones, earthquakes, floods, cyber attacks that take down networks.
Protests too, right. Uncensored peer-to-peer chat.
Exactly. Or regions with heavy media or internet control. Whistleblowers, activists, journalists needing secure, anonymous communication. The potential is massive.
It's interesting, Jack Dorsey. Twitter was initially kind of dismissed by some, then became huge. Could this be similar?
Ain't you wonder, right? So here we have this stark contrast. Toncoin's splashy, questionable claim.
Versus BitChat quietly building something potentially fundamental for human connection.
Yeah. Which approach really drives lasting innovation, the hype or the utility?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? BitChat really tackles this idea of resilient communication in a world that feels increasingly fragile sometimes, technologically speaking.
A really good point. Okay, let's shift focus one last time to the Middle East. Big things happening there with AI and autonomous tech.
The UAE, in particular, seems to be moving very fast.
Incredibly fast. The federal government just launched a massive new strategic planning cycle. And AI is right at the heart of it.
So AI isn't just a tool, it's central to their government planning now.
That's the idea. The goal is to transform government processes, boost efficiency, and get ahead of future challenges using AI.
And this is part of their wider vision.
Yeah, aligns with UAE Vision 2031. Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Dubai's ruler, announced it. They've even shortened the planning cycle.
From 5 years to...
down to 3 years. For more adaptability, they say.
Makes sense in the tech world. Things change fast.
For sure. And 38 federal entities are now mandated to use AI-driven strategies.
Yeah.
Strategic intelligence, smart forecasting, big data analysis all required now.
So moving beyond just basic digitization to actual AI-powered governance.
Right. The focus is on automation, predictive modeling, real-time performance tracking. Basically cutting bureaucracy and focusing on high-impact projects using these digital tools.
The UAE and Saudi Arabia both seem to be making huge strides in this area, really aiming for global leadership in AI governance.
They definitely are. It's not just adopting tech, it's weaving it into the very fabric of how the government operates.
Which is a fascinating, proactive approach, not just reacting to change, but trying to engineer a future state.
And speaking of engineering the future state, Dubai's robo-taxi plans.
Ah, yes, the Pony.ai partnership.
Revealed on July 4th. Pony.ai, a major autonomous driving company, partnering with Dubai's RTA, the Roads and Transport Authority.
This fits right into Dubai's smart city ambitions.
Perfectly. It's called a critical step. Their goal is ambitious. 25% of all trips in Dubai to be autonomous by 2030.
25% by 2030, that's...
Soon. Very soon. The expected benefits are what you'd imagine. Less traffic, better mobility, improved safety, convenience, sustainability.
And for Pony.ai, Dubai is a key international foothold.
Seems so. They see it as a strategic global platform to expand beyond China.
So when do these robotaxis actually hit the streets?
Initial trials are planned for later this year, 2025. Then a phased rollout, integrating their Level 4 autonomous driving tech into the city's transport network.
Level 4. So highly autonomous, but maybe not fully autonomous in all conditions yet.
Right, the vehicle handles most things, but human oversight might still be needed in rare cases. Pony.ai has their 7th-gen system, all automated components, and importantly,
Tested for the desert climate.
exactly, passed rigorous desert and high-temperature tests, critical for Dubai.
And Pony.ai has significant operations already, right?
Oh, yeah. Over 300 robotaxis running in major Chinese cities, aiming for over 1,000 fleet sites by year-end. They've got permits in the U.S., China, South Korea, Luxembourg.
Plus partnerships with ride-sharing companies.
Yep. Strategic deals with Uber, ComfortDelGro, aiming for that global reach.
So for our listeners, the takeaway is that the Middle East, especially Dubai, is becoming a real hotspot, a test bed for advanced AI and mobility.
Absolutely. It's a fascinating blueprint for what a tech-forward city might look like in the coming years. Not just adding tech, but building the city around it.
It really raises that question. What happens when a city's core infrastructure and governance are fundamentally built on AI and autonomous systems? How does that change urban life? And will other cities follow?
Great questions. So let's try and tie this all together. What does this all mean for you trying to stay informed?
Well, it means seeing the connections, right?
Exactly. Connecting the dots. Today we went from global politics hitting crypto markets.
Yeah, the nuances of digital privacy and the Tornado Cash case.
Then those contrasting innovation stories, Toncoin's hype versus BitChat's potential utility.
And finally, the really ambitious AI and autonomous future being built right now in the Middle East.
Yeah. Our goal with this deep dive was to give you that concise, informed perspective, those insights, maybe those aha moments you don't get from just scanning headlines.
And looking ahead, it makes you think about how all these different threads, geopolitical moves, privacy tech, communication tools, AI governance, how they'll weave together.
Right. How will they reshape our daily lives? How we interact with tech, with information, with each other?
It leads to a pretty big question for all of us, really.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So here's something to chew on. Considering this rapid pace, geopolitical shifts impacting markets, relentless tech breakthroughs like AI and decentralized comms, how do our societies need to adapt?
How do we balance it all, ensure security, but also protect individual freedom in the years ahead?
That's the question to mull over. A lot happening, a lot to think about.